Guys, we're back with another episode. And yes, I've got to just say this. Actually, this whole process since the Dems interview, it seems to have just kind of exploded. So today we have a new guest. We have an incredible actress. She's also a holistic healer for women of a certain age. All right. And also, she is incredibly high-spirited, and she's a phenomenal woman. Let's introduce you to Sandra Spencer.
Thank you so much. That's really sweet.
And thank you for coming so lastminute.com.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even get time to go to the hairdresser.
Sorry.
It's okay.
No,
It's all good. Anything for the culture.
You know that.
Yeah.
So, Sandra, right, thank you for coming in. And I know we've just been talking,
Yeah.
and I just almost wish we had captured half of what we said we were talking about. Now, you're from the UK.
Yep.
And you're a Gen Xer.
I am a very strong and proud Gen Xer.
And a seasoned one at
100%. Yeah.
So we both come from similar backgrounds, and we've kind of explored the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the whole scene from 1988.
Oh, a
maybe
little bit before that even.
A little bit before for you,
Yeah,
right?
86 maybe.
86?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was
sneaking into clubs like when I was young.
right.
Like, yeah. So.
What a time. What a time to
Oh my
be
gosh, I mean,
in that era, right?
Yeah, I think I really, it's quite funny because my son's in his 30s, right? And so I think he was able to benefit from some of the stuff that I was listening to and the energy from the music that I was listening to. But I would say that, I mean, where do we start? Like, I mean, for me, I remember as a mod at school.
Wow.
Right. And, the whole sort of like, style council, the big, like, bob that went over one eye and all of that kind of stuff. I was well into that. And then I got into, the Blackburn Warehouse dues. Now, do you know about the Blackburn Warehouse dues?
Wow. Well, I definitely heard about the Blackburn Warehouse dues, but I would have been slightly too young for that.
Okay, so
vibe.
basically what used to happen is before mobile phones,
Of course.
you used to listen to a guy called Sweet G on the radio. Now, let me tell you, when you heard Sweet G on the radio,
Talk it.
oh, you might as well have been putting your makeup on and everything and like just listening, because his voice was sweet. But when we saw him at a rave, we were like, oh.
So it
Anyways,
quite handy.
but like, so he used to announce kind of like on the radio, kind of like where to kind of go but not to go. So
right.
there'd be a location, and then someone would get on the phone, the pay phone.
Yes.
And then there'd be like people all over phoning like pay phones to find out where to get onto the motorway, onto the convoy. And then how you recognize that it is the convoy to the rave is that you would get blokes in big white vans with the back door up, and I don't know if you like, they still have them now, but like on the big cones on the side of the road, they used to have these big yellow kind of like safety roadie lights or something. So you'd see some guy in the back of the van with this big orange light, and you knew that there's a convoy. And then you follow the convoy. I mean, we've driven from like Sheffield to Manchester, up to Liverpool, up to wherever it was. And then in that convoy, they would just, you just park up, and then we'd be trawling through a field, and then there'd be a big warehouse, and then that warehouse went off.
Just say it, because guys, let me tell you something. We are the pioneers
100%.
when it comes to when we wanted to party or rave. We're the pioneers of that. Not now, where you have an instant message, or you might, I don't know, voice note someone, Snapchat someone. we heavily relied on a dialer phone, okay, which sometimes got locked because parents weren't too happy
Yeah,
about
but do you know how to overcome the lock?
Well,
Is to tap.
yeah, you got to tap. You got to tap the little
Black things that used to cover
So there
up.
were these like little buttons that were on the phone. So when you put the receiver on the device, well, I can't call it a device now. It was on the actual phone. There are two little studs, and they click. But you'd have to click the number, but you'd have to wait. So if it was, for example, 01384 235 339, you'd go and then 1 and then wait. And it was just crazy.
But
so
it worked.
It worked. It worked. That was the only way you could overcome the lock on the phone. But we relied heavily on a promise, wasn't it? Right. We'd have to promise that we would make it to a certain destination by a set time. So if we said we're meeting at 7 outside the bus stop on Froggett's Lane, opposite the Pikey pub, you needed to be there.
Yeah.
And you needed to be there on the dot, because if you weren't, it weren't happening, right?
Yeah.
So there were all these little things that we relied on as people to get to somewhere, to promise that person you would make it.
Yeah.
If you didn't turn up, you knew that you weren't the one.
There was no debating.
No, not at all. Musically, it was a case of you had to really study your artist who you really loved. If it was on the radio, I don't know, whether it be Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
When it came to learning music and knowing the scene, and if there was a party or a rave that was related to that, you had to know every single word.
Oh yeah, but I think that was the thing with music back then, though. It was orchestrated in such a way that you wanted to sing the song. You wasn't just singing blurb. You were singing
with meaning.
Yeah, passion, or with anger, or with whatever it was. And then not only did you need to learn the words, you needed to learn the dance.
Of course.
So
do you think there's actually not much difference today, only because we see it on the device, on social media platforms, that people learn specific dances due to an artist coming out with a new song?
I don't really think that there's much that you can do. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like Kanye's music, but I don't think there's much kind of body flow going on with his tunes.
Not like Candy, just like Candy.
Yeah, exactly. And
you had
everybody
to
knows
really
it.
learn, right?
But it's a feeling, it's an energy.
It's an energy, but the thing is, even to today, there's some people who still struggle with that forward, back.
Well, they always
side.
could have struggled. It don't matter.
Well,
Allow them,
I mean,
because I don't know anybody of any culture or any genre, whatever, that can't pick up the Candy dance.
I know, guys. If you're missing on this part of the conversation, there were certain dance routines that we were obliged to do when we were at a party, and these dances, if you knew them and you got them down to the T, you were the people's favorite. If you didn't and you struggled, then you would know, because people are going to cuss you out and say move and go on.
I don't know. I think in different scenes.
Well, I suppose.
I mean, in the house scene, I mean, you could do anything.
Well,
goes. Anything goes. But I do know, like, for example, in like the drum and bass and the jungle scenes, there were certain moves, especially when the helicopter tune came on. There were certain moves that you had to do, and you had to get them locked properly, because if you didn't do it right, there would be some side eye.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And like I say, it was a time, the whole, I love the Gen X era, and I really feel like, we are hanging on to that element of nostalgia, and we are bringing it into this moment. And I think, guys, if you're watching this, please go back and really dig deep into the scene. It is absolutely rich with vibe and energy and and the realness. It was just, it was intoxic. You know, you couldn't get enough. Now that we're at this stage in our lives, you know, it just goes to show just by how we look today.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, no. You know.
We knew where it was at. I don't know about you, Gen Z, Gen Y, Alpha. No, I love you and I think you look amazing and I'm not running you down. But we just keep the youth.
100%.
Right?
But do you know what's really funny as well? I have to add in there, like, I think with Gen X, and I think music can be reflective of the times that we're living in, yeah?
Absolutely.
And I think that when we look at our era, it was a time before distraction. Like before all of the mobile phones, it was before all of the box series on
Yeah.
Netflix, it was before all of that. We had what, half a dozen channels, but what we did have is we had real music.
Absolutely.
You know, because even if we don't just talk about the house scene and the drum and bass, let's just talk about like 80s pop, you
Come
know,
on
like
now.
Duran, Men at Work, like Kajagoogoo, Lisa Stansfield. Like,
Listen.
there ain't no black house that didn't listen to Lisa Stansfield, for
Who-
example.
Well, I'm going to ask. This is a question to the audience. If you don't know Lisa Stansfield, you need to go and research Lisa Stansfield. An amazing singer, from Rochdale, in just outside Manchester. And she wrote a song called "Being Around the World." So I wanted to put that one in there because it's quite symbolic to where we are today in Dubai.
Yeah.
So, you know, we feel like we're in the world
Yeah.
in Dubai because obviously with the intercultural and the
Yeah.
multicultural elements of it. And it's amazing how we've got this opportunity to talk.
Yeah, I love it. I
See.
mean, I've been here 10 years now, 11 in April. So, yeah.
Ooh. So, Sandra, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've done and how did you get to Dubai? What moved you to, without going
Too deep.
Yeah.
Okay, so, oh, wow. Okay, so I'm from Sheffield originally, but I went Sheffield, Birmingham, Leicester, London. So I made my way down there, and my music journey was like that as well. Always worked in media. Was a single mom, so I was, bringing my son up as well. He's a lovely young man now, and he moved here 2 years ago. And my son used to spit grime when he was a kid. Oh, let
Wow.
me tell you something. When I used to lift up the mattress and I pulled out like little A4 piece of paper, the lyrics, and then I had to have a word, and he was mortified because he was a lovely, sweet young boy, to be fair. But the lyrics on this piece of paper, that's another thing. Yeah. So, Mum, I've always worked in media, but I've always, I think since 2008, that's when I studied Reiki healing.
Okay.
And then I've studied a plethora of other holistic healing things, inner child, emotional freedom tapping technique, and now qualified as a menopause coach. And 10 years ago, I kind of had done the whole, my son was doing his thing and he was living with his girlfriend and all of that. And I was like, okay. And I started dating someone very new. And then because I'd been traveling around the world with my company and I always stayed in a particular chain of hotel, they offered me a complimentary 5-night stay anywhere in the world. And I was like, oh, I'll do Dubai, somewhere I never thought about coming. Anyway, I came here and I ended up coming here single. And I'm there on the beach with one of these, these self-help books, like in my moment in the sun with the self-help book. And I'd done a check-in on Facebook, and someone said, "Oh, you're in Dubai?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh, come and meet me for drinks." I was like, "Okay, this is great." And then she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" So I was like, "Oh, I'm single."
Oh.
And she went, "Oh, well, why don't you come and live in Dubai?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I don't think they've got my kind of job here. It's very green." And she said, "What, and like." So I work in media. She said, "Well, I work for a media company." So after several cocktails later, I sent her my CV. And I get a call from her boss the next day. She's like, "I understand you're only here for couple of days more. So can I come and see you? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I'm frantically on the computer looking up the magazine and the website, you know, like to see what it's all about. And I'm very straightforward, very honest. And she said, so what do you think? And I was like, well, the first question I asked her, which is a bit brave, and I said, have you got an editor? She said, what do you mean?
Ooh.
And I said, well, you know, this hasn't been updated, this is missing, and I just rolled off a whole heap of stuff
That is so bold.
that wasn't done. And she went, yeah, well, we haven't had an editor for 3 months. When can you start? And so literally 3 weeks later, I was on a plane to Dubai, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, what a story. Right. Well, I'm going to say it's for me, like just meeting you, and I know we have kind of connected on a group
Acting youth
because
group,
the
yeah.
acting
Acting in the UAE.
that's the
yeah.
one, which is run by Leo, who I used to work with many years ago, and it's great that we are now able to do that instantaneously,
Yeah.
without having to think, oh my gosh, I've got to go and find someone, and then I've got to put an advert out, etc. And the idea of bringing you in is because of your skills. Your skills are incredible. You're an
Thank you.
actress, and you have this ability to use your voice
Yeah.
in an amazing way. And I know we'd spoken previously because I needed someone like you to just, you know, help individuals who really need to develop their acting skills. So guys, even though we're on a Gen X platform here, there is again a little bit of a pivot to how we use our voices and how we explore the voice and use it to our benefit, whether you want to go into acting or you want to go into singing. We've got people here
Yeah.
who can help you.
And podcasting as well, you know, like the
Absolutely.
young ones. For sure. I know even like my son and some of his friends back in the UK, when they were in the UK, they were doing podcasts and stuff like that. I think it's like, I feel like podcasts for them is almost like, instead of newspapers and things like that, like magazines and stuff, a lot of the time they're kind of communicating with each other on quite, you know, some funny topics, but also some quite serious topics via podcasts. So
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the great things about having a podcast. But it's also we're moving out of that nostalgic kind of scene, which was then of the 80s, 90s, and obviously the early part of 2000s, where we didn't have as much access to the technology.
Yeah.
And now that we have the access to the technology, we are an open book. So the sort of unfiltered version of Gen X starts here, and it doesn't just start here and ends here. It certainly goes a little bit deeper. And we are going to be looking at topics centered around music and centered around lifestyles in that particular era, because it's so different from what it is now. But it's not a let's go back down memory lane and, you know, let's talk to the younger generation, say, well, I told you so. It's not about that. It's just respecting the vibe, right? I want to bring you back because I think just based on your story and your testimony, I think there is an area that you could certainly speak to anybody who may want to develop their voice in acting.
Yeah.
Because I'm no actress. Trust and believe. I tried and I died. It didn't happen. But we have an expert here who can absolutely support that, because it is the Vocal Pod cast, or the Vocal Pod, where we do have a voice. We do definitely want to explore that. So my next question, Miss Sandra. So you came from Sheffield. You did a zigzag
Yeah.
to Dubai.
Yeah.
With all the bells and whistles attached as a single woman.
Yeah. Ball and chains
Ball
as well.
and chains. Whilst you were going through that process, you were part of a scene. There was always the rave scene. I just want to tap in to the time when you were in the mod era.
Oh, when I was at school?
Yeah, so because the reason why I say that, because I know we spoke off camera about our lives growing up as kids in school. I was the only black girl in my whole...
Yeah,
I think it was my
same
whole year. And Ronnie Blake was the only black guy. And then there was 2 mixed race kids, and that was it.
Yeah.
Even within those times, it was in the 80s and it was in Thatcher years.
Yeah.
Thatcher was the then Prime Minister, 1984 onward.
Margaret Thatcher. Old Maggie. Yeah.
Oh, Maggie. Oh, Maggie. I mean, we're going into the UK scene, so anyone watching this who's not doesn't have an understanding, it may not fit into your remit. But just Google it, and, you know, we're not just going to focus on the UK. We're obviously going to go all around the world, so just stay here for now. So you tapped into the mod era. Tell us about that.
I think, I don't know. So I was the only black kid in school as well, and I went to kind of like a school right on the outskirts and stuff. And I felt like with mod area, it was just like a bit different, a bit edgy.
Right.
I did like the music. I loved the music. And then I also loved the fashion, because I remember there was a place in, so they used to have Castle Market in Sheffield. I don't think it's there now. But basically they used to have a shop called Rabina's. Anyone from Sheffield up north, like Rabina's, they used to have Rabina shoes. And these shoes, they were like really pointed. And then like half of the shoe would be white, half would be black, and then there'd be a zip. And then I used to wear them like dogtooth ski pants, and then like a racing, like the racing tops. And then I used to have this really razor kind of like bob. And I think that what was good about that is when I was at school, it wasn't about being the only black kid in school, but it was being the edgy chick in school.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of deflected from that feel. You know what I mean? It was kind of like deflecting from being the only black kid in school to owning this kind of like different.
Well, the thing is that you kind of shaped your own identity, and you kind of took charge of that.
Yeah.
Which is really unique in the sense that when you are like the minority, it's sometimes feels like you've got to follow the majority.
Yeah.
But in your case, you took on your own identity.
Yeah.
And, you know, like in those times, it would have been shone upon by, you know, black families. They were like, what is it that you have on? Take it off. And what's this, that,
so
and
I
the-"
wasn't, I wasn't even brought up with my parents. I had quite a traumatic childhood, actually. You know, I was actually with a white foster family, not amazing either. But I think, and so that was all part and parcel of it. It was almost like I reinvented myself.
Okay, that's really interesting. And I think that's another, because there's so many layers to you. And I know this is like the first installment, and I don't want to go in like, let's dive into the cake. Because I want to honor that to you. I want to, I respect the fact that you're just taking this time to really give us, a really brilliant insight into a part of your life.
Yeah, I think, like I've done the work, and that's the thing. There's, and that's why I got into the healing thing as well. And like why I've invested so much into it is, I've done the work. And I really say that with a done. Because there's a lot of people who just go, oh yeah, I've done my therapy. No, I went deep. I went into all of those dark, deepest traumatic areas, and I swam through them, almost drowned many times to come out the other side. So I can sit comfortably and talk about those dark areas of my time. And I think it's important to be able to, like I think as I said off camera, anything that I'm talking about when I'm talking about on the holistic healing side of things, it has to come from a place of integrity or a place of experience. And I feel very lucky, extremely lucky, to be in the situation of being able to be comfortably sitting in that space and not be, you know, a complete mess and this, that, and the other, or whatever. So
Yes.
it's everything shapes you for a reason, you know.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, this is, again, it's really, really important to, and again, I'm coming, this is from a completely unfiltered, because my background, I have a very strong faith, a very strong faith, and I'm always prayed up. I can't stress it enough, because for me, that is my way of being able to be creative,
Yeah.
and not only be creative, but to be at complete peace within myself. And I rely heavily on the Most High. That's the center of my life. But many people will look at, you know, other avenues, and they've had the trauma and all the things that have literally forced them to become who they are.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, again, you know, it's not an exclusive, or it's not it's isolated to you,
Yeah.
but it's everybody's
Yeah.
story is definitely different, and everyone's way of dealing with
100%.
that. But I tell you something, you know, there is so much to be said about that time. It's quite emotional. And I say this, guys, I'm not going into an emotional, it's literally for a certain group of people who grew up in that particular period of time. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't always straightforward. So you have to definitely be
resilient. But what I will say as well, going back to the topic of, you know, this podcast, is without music,
absolutely,
it would have been a different story.
Yeah,
music was the thing that got me through so many different things, and I say that like wholeheartedly. I think, you know, I told you, for example, I absolutely love Boy George, and
was it George Michael or Boy George?
No, Boy. Well, I loved George Michael
Boy
as well,
George,
but Boy George specifically, I remember buying his album, and I remember Victims, and Victims, I remember exactly where I was as a kid and what I was going through, and when I used to listen to that particular song, it got me. It allowed me to, even though I was going through such horrendous things, it allowed me kind of to lose myself in that tune and to feel, because sometimes, you know, when you've been through like traumatic things, you become hardened. But like through music, I think sometimes the music still allows us to still be I don't know, to be free, to be
just to be human,
warm, to be human. You know, if we think about, there will be certain tracks for everyone, I'm sure, certain artists and things like that, where they can listen to particular songs, and if it's a bad day, this song can just get them through. It can just lift them or take them to a place, a positive memory or whatever, you know.
Absolutely. And that is the reason why we do this, because, you know, we tap into a part of us that I always believe that when we have a voice isn't something that is what we use because we can use it. It's been given to us as a gift. It's a voice that allows people to really, really use it effectively to help others. And I second on that, because a lot of my music now, even though I was part of a scene, you know, I don't need to go into the whole story behind the scene I was in. I completely removed myself from that, and it wasn't deliberate. It was almost like a cry for help, because part of the scene, the music didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I had to really dig deep. And that's why I write music now about my faith. I write music that literally soars, and it's empowering, and it's so rich in its tapestry of talking, on how I grown from the indie scene and rock and the hedonistic way of life to now being pretty full, and I've not done it on my own.
Yeah.
And that's how, everyone's way of moving in life will be directed and centered to that, because that's the purpose. The purpose is to heal, or the purpose is to make well, or something. And I know, guys, we're going, like I say, it's unfiltered, so let's keep it on the unfiltered.
Yeah.
But that's each individual will have their method, but it's
a journey, isn't it? Music's supposed to be a journey, like going away from that kind of thing. But so when I was again on the house scene, I remember going to Money Pennies.
Oh my gosh,
Miss Money Pennies in Birmingham. And that's the first time that I'd encountered sort of drag queens, this, that, and the other. It all set the scene. But when you went in the club, it wasn't all tables, no champers, and that's what's killed a lot of the club scene for me. I'm not saying for other people, but I didn't want to go into a club and be hunting whose table we can sit on and this, that, and who's got the biggest bottle of Grey Goose and blah. No, we wanted to go into the doors and see the place packed. Do you know what I mean? And everyone's just having a good time. And I just, I used to be, when I used to go Money Pennies, I used to be right at the front, in front of the DJ box. Not so it would be a pick-me, but because I just wanted to feel the DJ's energy and the journey. Right. I wanted the journey. So, we go in at a certain time, take a drink, whatever. And then I knew in myself that I was going to get that musical journey, and that's what fulfilled. And the benefit was that everybody else around was in there for the musical journey. Yes. Wasn't oh, look at us, we've been here, but we didn't have a mobile phone to show everybody that we was there.
Right, that
or
part.
Look at what I'm wearing. It was literally a whole sea of people waiting for the journey, waiting for the drops, waiting for the piano, waiting for you know what I mean? And I just think that is lost now.
It is. And it's, the thing is, it's again, you couldn't have made that more so poignant. That was a time when people who came together in a moment, it was a moment, and you can relive that moment in that recorded mindset. You cannot see it on, well, you can see it if you go on a YouTube, but you won't get the same kind of energy. You would have had to have lived in that particular time, and you'd have had to walk, like you say, you walked through the doors. You were, welcomed by a sea of people who were on the same level.
Yeah.
When we look at that now, we don't see it in the way we see it as people from that era. It's a lot darker because there's you can only look at the Travis Scott, and I know
I can't even listen to it. I'm so sorry, Travis Scott, but I can't listen to it. And I think it's all about energies. I was talking to you about when I sleep, I listen to binaural beats or solfege or whatever, because there's different frequencies and energies for stimulating the mind in certain ways, or stimulating the heart or emotions or peace or this, that, and the other. And I'm not sure what frequencies these are on, but they just don't fit with me.
This is where, I mean, as I say, when we look at sort of musical maturity and sounds, vibrations, frequencies, all these specific terminologies and vocabularies around the sound, it's changed over the course of time. And if we only can go back to when we had a cassette tape, it was a different frequency. And when we go into CDs, it was
There's
again
certainly a different frequency when it broke.
when it broke, when that tape snapped.
You
It
have
was
to
like
like that
we
with a
had to glue-
sellotape.
When the tape snapped, we had to glue it back. And as much as vinyl, again, is a
Yeah.
certain sound. But then when you're going into the DAWs, like the technological sound scapes that we use to create music, there's so much used in the element of bass and these really heavy frequencies that actually impact on the heart.
Yeah.
And
Can I let you in into a secret? I've got to share this with you actually.
Go on.
So one of my things when my son was younger, and we used to have something. This is so funny, but we used to have something called Horror Sundays, which sounds really bad. Like,
Horror Sundays.
yeah, I mean, the bloody Gen Xers now, they would have, not so the Gen Zs would have like had me committed or something. But basically, so this is true story. This, my son, if he watches this, he'll be like, yeah. So what used to happen is on a weekend, me and my friend and her two kids, which were very similar age to mine, we all used to share a babysitter. So they were all the kids were really good friends. So they all
Right.
sleep at my house or sleep at her house. And we used to get a babysitter in who used to stay over, right? And so we'd been out partying. And then on the Sunday, we'd either cook Sunday roast or we'd take them to a carvery.
Okay.
And they'd be able to run ragged. And then we'd go to Blockbusters. You know,
God,
DVD.
Blockbusters. And then you used to have to post it into the, oh my
so,
God.
yeah. So we go to Blockbusters. The kids would pick all these different horror movies and get all these, you know, munchies. And again, yeah, the Gen Z would be going, oh, there's far too much sugar that. But anyway, they used to get all the munchies, all the, you know, popcorn and sweets and everything. And then you used to bring all the quilts down. And we all used to sit on the sofa watching horror movies. And I was fascinated by horror movies. But I realised if you turn the music down on a horror movie, it's about 70% less scary,
It's comedy.
right? So you know what I did? I said to myself, I want to make a horror tune, right? So in Tottenham, in London, there is a college in Tottenham, and they were doing these music courses, sound engineering courses on Cubase and Reason.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, okay. And it was like dirt cheap, like something like that. So I was like, right. So I went and I made a horror tune down there at the college. It was like all monks chanting.
Do we have
and
access to this horror
I don't
tune?
know, do you know?
Can
I'll
you
have
not
to
find
try and
it?
dig it out.
Oh, we need to
but
find that.
it's incredible. And yeah, the use of these.
The DAWs.
yeah,
the
it just
digital
is
software.
incredible.
I know. Well, that's how I make my music. I'm going to,
Right.
you know, because I'm not a split case, because I learned so much when I was touring. I felt like I had no choice at the time, because being on a bus traveling across America, I needed to occupy myself and I needed to create. And it was the only way I had the time to kind of really just get in
Yeah.
to understanding how to create digitally. And I learned so much from it, and I've released a lot of my own music that way. And I feel as though, and guys, those of you, I know, before you go and attack me, I know there's a lot of Travis Scott fans through the Gen Zs and probably some of you millennials. But, you know, there are things that are unseen that we see because we are seasoned in what we know. And we're not just saying that because we want to put the can on that type of music. But like I say, there are elements of things that we don't even come in and challenge it. It is straight fire, dark. It's just dark.
Yeah.
But you know,
But it's not even just. I mean, it's not even hit. I mean, like, let's take the heat off him. But I think even in certain pop stars' music and stuff like that, it's there.
yeah,
If we like, without going into it, I mean, I personally don't really like talking about it, but I just know that when I listen, there are like there's another artist which I'm not going to say because I just do not want to be vilified. Big artist, and I
Yes,
just
we
can't
know.
listen.
We
I
know.
can't listen to it.
Well,
And I
yeah.
tell you why.
I know who it
I
is.
tell you why, because my spirit says
Just,
no.
yeah, it just
My
says
spirit
no.
says no.
But this is the thing. I know. Oh, I
No,
just
don't
want
say
to.
it, don't say it.
No, I'm not going to say it because at the end of the day, if you don't know, you will get to know very soon. But with that said, unless you've lived through a time like ourselves, we grew up where there were so many different transitions, and individuals during that time were really struggling with their own identity, the way how there was a lot of
Yes,
elements,
it was an
and
uncertain time, but it was
very very difficult, but we found sound. We found and created sound. We made it happen. There were always house parties.
Oh.
Like the house parties, there were always places where we gathered, and we we had a little ghetto blaster. I mean, some of them were like,
Oh yeah, the speakers and
they were
sound.
and we had things like, I know we have carnivals here, but like it feels almost like we
We had
slightly
a
watered
carnival
down.
in someone's house in
But
Birmingham. But yeah,
the carnival would happen, and then the carnival would continue, and it was a matter of a carnival not just lasting one day, but it would last a whole week, sometimes 2 weeks, back to back. There was no rest. So I don't know.
Oh, listen, on bank holidays, wow. But like,
All
I just,
dayers.
yeah,
Remember the all dayers?
of course, all days and all nights and all after party after the after party
Ah.
after the after party. I remember that, like, especially when I lived in Birmingham, I used to have some scales in my bathroom, and we'd weigh ourselves on the Friday before we're getting ready to go out, and then we'd weigh ourselves on a Sunday. And you can bet your bottom dollar that we've lost about 4 or 5 kg.
Trust.
Literally.
I know, and that's one of the things, like the energy
There's
that
no
we had.
Ozempic back then.
Well, this is it, because nowadays it's like, oh, do we have to war? And we were on foot express, foot
far.
express.
Yes.
We used to walk from one. Listen,
Club
it was like
to the next one all the way down.
I mean, I've left those days, but I'm saying as a reflection and knowing that it wasn't just about I'm sat on my phone and I'm looking.
No.
We connected in ways where people really felt like they were the star in their own community. Do you know that you were, wherever you were, you would be in a group, or you'd be at maybe a party, and you never felt like, oh, look at her.
No.
It was nothing
not at
like
all.
that.
It was like you collected, like I'll give a couple of references to big sort of like party type things. So Southport Weekenders.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And Sunseabeat. So like I remember in
Pink
like
Coconut?
people going there, yeah, Pink Coconut. Oh, Pink Coconut, yes. But you could bring someone new into that scene, and everyone was so welcoming, and they left that scene. Well, they didn't even leave. They never necessarily leave the scene, but they have groups 20, 30, 40, and there was no like, oh, you can't talk about smoking and stuff like that. Like, it was just bring in,
Everybody
and all the
was
time
welcome.
just looking forward to
Yeah.
seeing them
Yeah.
again at the next party. And I think what it is now, like, for example, this whole social media thing, and I do use social media, it is useful.
We have to, yeah, we
But
use it.
what I will say is that some people feel that staying in touch is liking your post. That's the thing.
Please
Oh,
shout
no,
it louder for them
I
at
saw
the
your
back.
post. I did like it. No, that is
It's
not.
not.
That is not.
No.
That is not like back in our day. Staying in touch was, yeah, I will see you next week, and then you see them next week, and you give a hug, and you're on the dance floor for about half a dozen
Thank you,
hours,
Sandra.
and then you go back to the after party with them, and then whatever. You know,
Okay.
it's.
But it's like today, like we just literally contacted first thing. Well, it was about 10 o'clock or whatever time it was.
Yeah.
Can you meet me today? Yes. And I think that's because we've got the mindset. We know exactly
Yeah.
if it's going to happen, it will happen.
Yeah.
It's no, it's a bit flaky. I don't know.
No, I know. No.
No, because we've got a mindset when we're on it. And I know, and I speak for my fellow Gen Xers who live here in Dubai, not too far from where we are. They're the same. If we're going out, we are literally, boom,
Yeah.
we're there. There's no in and ahhing, unless, there's an exceptional circumstance. But anyway, I'm going off track. The fact is that there is a togetherness, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
To have.
Yeah. And it does, it's music again. And I keep going back to it. I say that, without music, I wouldn't be so together. I really wouldn't. I'm so grateful for all the different genres that I went through, all the different people that I met through those different genres, because like when I was in the jungle scene, for example, I was in certain things and like hanging around with certain people. Like, would I go into that scene now? No. But at the time, it kind of fitted what I was going through,
Absolutely.
And so forth. Every single scene that I can think that I've been on, and I've had an amazing musical journey. I've travelled overseas, Iron Appa, the black and white, Cosa Nostra, all of that, to Ibiza, to Amsterdam, to the White Party in Amsterdam, to like all over the world,
right,
for music. And they've been incredible experiences.
Yeah,
I really am grateful that I've been able to experience them. And, not just house, not just drum and bass, garage, reggae, but even down to, listening to classical music, the 80s pop. I will never get tired of 80s pop. 70s funk, a rare groove, all of it. Josephine's on a Monday night in Sheffield. You cannot beat it,
Right. Well, we're going to wrap up here because we could go on forever.
I could go on.
I know. So, like, literally, just to summarize, okay, is there anything that you would like to share with? Because this show is not just necessarily about Gen X, even though this is the Gen X Unfiltered segment. But are there any tips or tricks that you could tell our millennials or our Gen Zers what they could do? Guys,
I think that for all I think I mentioned this before, but when someone says, "Oh, what music are you into?" and they just say one genre, listen to them all.
Oh, thanks.
Listen to them all. Listen to real bands and listen to some of the really old school Hall and Oates.
Yeah.
I listened to something which was at the Kennedy Center. It was Heart singing Stairway to Heaven, which some people were like, "Oh, Heart, well," but incredible.
Well, that's what I always encourage my Gen Zs and some of my alphas at the moment. I encourage them to listen to Eva Cassidy or even Nick Drake, and kind of explore the whole arena, not just the ones that have kind of are in this era. Go back a little bit because there's some great storytelling.
100%.
And once you found something that you can connect with, go on that journey.
And dance like no one is watching. Because I'm telling you now, I still dance around in my pants, like literally screaming and shouting and shaking my head and grabbing whatever and singing into it. I still do it.
Yes.
I love it. And like, kind of like,
well,
it's such a
I
stress
tell you
relief.
what, if that's right, okay, I'm gonna owe you to this. Well, I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean.
Hold me to
I'm
it.
gonna hold you to this one.
Yeah.
So part of this show, right, we, as you can see, we've got a little setup here. Have a resident band, but they're not been pulled in just yet. And we're on our way of getting them in, where we actually have a session. So we just play some tunes and we make some music, and It all gets recorded.
I'm not dancing in my pants.
No, we don't want. No. Come in your sweats. But we would absolutely love for you to come down and just have a vibe if you were up for
100%.
that.
I'd
Yeah?
love to. Yeah.
So that's going to be happening in the next. Probably if you're here during the summer, we may have a slot where we just open it up. And
love to. Yeah.
I'd be so excited.
Yeah.
And then we may get to hear you sing. All right, we'll put our yeah. Thank you so much, Sandra. It's
Thank
been
you
an
for having
absolute
me. It's
dream.
been a blast. I love
know,
it.
right?
Yeah.
So until next time,
Yeah.
you are definitely on my unfiltered list.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, that is it, and that's a wrap from us. So I look forward to seeing you on a TikTok live. You may get this like literally in the next couple of days. But thank you for watching and stay blessed. Mwah. Love ya.